Hello, this is going to be lesson number 11, Archetypes. Archetypes. Um, so I'm going to kind of just rant and ramble on this lesson because it's one that I know a lot about, and anytime I know a lot about something, I tend to get a little bit manic and ADHD about it, and just kind of like want to tell you every little detail that pops to my mind. So there's two different types of archetypes. First of all, like what is an archetype? An archetype is basically just something that it's almost like a stereotype, but not quite. It's also known as a trope. It's something that we look at it and we recognize it. We get it. It's something that's like so old, so ancient, so ingrained into our way of viewing the world and reality. That we automatically like get the association. So there's two types of archetypes. There's archetypal characters and there's archetypal stories. So Carl Jung was a psychologist. Jung is spelled Jung, who developed this idea of the archetypes based on mythology and religion mostly. He was a huge studier of religion and mythology, and he founded an institute called the Jungian Institute, which hoped to translate different texts other than, the Bible from other religions and cultures, ancient civilizations. They are very much involved in trying to find all the information that we could from, like, Tibet and places like that, and translate it and bring it to America. So basically, his conception of it was, okay, here's a certain number of archetypes, and you can agree or disagree. You can say, well, there's more than that. But that they fit certain roles in society and in storytelling. There's like, okay, this person is this role. And it's kind of similar to tarot cards, if you're familiar with that, like the Hermit and the Lovers and so on and so forth. It's kind of just intrinsic roles that we understand. We look at stories, we look at mythology, we look at religion, and we go, okay, I can see how this character fits that role. And is there a kind of both that we ourselves as humans go through different phases in our lives where that's us, we fit a certain role, and then as we get older, we tend to develop into a specific role where if we're in a phase in our lives where for like, okay, I'm an adult, I'm middle-aged, I'm elderly, whatever, that phase of your life, you're going to be this type of person who fills a certain role in your household and society that mimics or models these mythological and religious figures. In addition to, that's why we keep retelling it in stories, because it's familiar and it's comfortable and it relates to us on a human level. So another person involved with the archetypes that I want to mention real quick is author Kurt Vonnegut. So Kurt Vonnegut, you can go look this up, did this thing where he graphed out the different narrative arcs. So you can look at Kurt Vonnegut's graphs of the narrative arcs or story arcs. Also fits into the archetypal storytelling, where he basically says there's only so many different kinds of stories. And again, you can agree, disagree. You can say, well, I think there's more different types of stories than that. There you go. Here's how it plots out. It looks like this. There's a circular narrative where you end up exactly back where you started. There's the rags to riches story, also known as Cinderella stories, is another common example, where you have poor person or person who has nothing or has less becomes fabulously wealthy and successful. And there's the Job story from the Bible, where it's a guy who has everything, loses everything, gets it all back again. It's basically the story of Job from the Bible. And he says, you can find different stories that are in the Bible or in mythology that get repeated throughout literature, especially Charles Dickens. If you ever read any Dickensian stories, Charles Dickens was working with this idea of the archetype and the myth. Like almost all of his characters are, Ebenezer Scrooge. It's like, oh, that's an archetypal character. Where he's this miserly old man who's greedy and just kind of hates everybody. Like that's a stereotype. Like we get like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons from that. So on and so forth. So I'm just going to go over the character archetypes real quick. Now these are the, I believe, 12 major ones as outlined by Carl Jung. And like I said, there are others. But it's the hero, the mentor or sage, the ruler, the innocent or child, the explorer, the outlaw, the magician or wizard, the jester, the lover, the everyman, which that doesn't have to be, man as in male. It's man as in human. So everyday person, also sometimes known as citizens or civilians, just kind of like your everyday person. The creator, which is not the heavenly creator, it's not God, it's referring to someone who's a craftsman or even creates like artificial life, like the character in the story of the golem. Golem gets brought to life from stone. The guy who creates it is a creator. He's using Kabbalistic magic to make something alive. Same thing with Frankenstein. It's a variation on the same story. So those are all archetypal stories that deal with archetypal characters. And then the last one is the caregiver, so like usually a motherly figure. So those are the major archetypes, and I think that's basically all there is to it. I'm not going to go into great detail describing what each of those are because they're generally understood. That's what makes them archetypes, is that you can kind of just look at the name, look at the character, and go, okay, I see how this character's like this. Like a jester, that's kind of like a clown or a fool. If there's some kind of character in a story, especially Shakespeare was a huge fan of using jester characters in his plays, where he'd have them usually as like storyteller types, where they're basically telling you, here's what's going on, or there'd be go-betweens, where they're relaying messages, where they'd be like, my master says blah, blah, and here's a funny little joke and a dance and some juggling while I'm going to throw in there. He did that to keep his audience entertained and engaged in what was going on. So yeah, basically, that's everything you need to know about the archetypes. Really, all you're looking for is, when you're looking at stories, you're trying to see, is this an archetypal story? Does it fit like this certain narrative arc that we're used to seeing? Like the hero's quest is one of them. That's one of the biggest ones, is the hero's quest. Where you have a character who's the hero, which fits kind of stereotypes in and of itself. It's, like Odysseus in the Odyssey. He's the hero because he's the stereotypical, I'm brave and courageous, I'm going to go fight and slay monsters. That's the stereotype of the hero. And he's going on this specific quest where he's going to have ups and downs and searching for something, and out of loss and despair, or it looks like he's reached the bottom of the pit where he's going to die and it's going to all be over. He's going to come out of that and he's going to, arise triumphant. So we're basically just looking for, are the characters, any of these characters, where they fit these very specific kind of ancient roles that are laid out for us, and are these stories that kind of model themselves after mythology or the Bible. That's basically all the archetypes are dealing with.